When I saw this tweet from Antonio, my gut feel was immediately, please tell me this is faked. I've talked about spam on GitHub before, and when I previously did it, people didn't seem to care. As such, I don't know how well this video will perform, but honestly, I don't care. This is an important thing to talk about, and I don't think GitHub is prepared to deal with it. I'm really excited to go into the reasons why, the severity of the problem, how GitHub spam detection stuff works, and why you should care. Before we can do that, we should quickly hear from our sponsor. My previous ad for Hrefs, I talked all about how good their course materials seemed to be and mentioned that I was going to binge. Well, I did, and I'm kind of an SEO god now. I did not expect their stuff to be as useful as it is, even though I thought it'd be pretty useful. Holy hell. If you're a web dev that needs to level up your SEO skills, take their free courses, take a look at their free YouTube channel, and maybe try out their product afterwards. I've been really impressed with it, but honestly, all of these free materials are why I'm so impressed. Because I probably watched like 4 hours of the YouTube channel. You can scroll and see all these ones that I watched. There's even more from older days. Some of these videos are phenomenal. Like, I honestly think pretty much everybody doing web dev stuff that has any interest in making their things come up via search should watch this. I used ChatGPT to rank #1 in Google, not because everyone should use AI to automatically boost their place on the Google search, but it's such a good breakdown of how search trends actually work on Google. I went from kind of knowing how Google search works to a deep understanding of all things SEO super quickly. And then you have the actual platform that Ahrefs built, which is the best way to keep track of all of these things. So I'm not saying go sign up and pay them a bunch of money immediately. I'm saying take their free courses, see what you learn, and then maybe try out the product because it's just as good as the course material. Thank you, Hrefs, for sponsoring today's video. I've been blown away with the product. I hope you guys are too. So how do we get here? It's been a weird journey. The first important point to understand is that whether or not they want to admit it, GitHub is a social network now. GitHub might seem like a place for employees to trade code, but it has gone much further than that. As soon as the idea of a public repo was introduced, which has been there since day one, GitHub became a social platform, especially once things like issues and pull requests were added, where anyone could file anything. For a quick bit of context, I spent a lot of time at Twitch working on safety tools. Everything from the mod tools people use to keep chat at bay to the automation and moderation systems that go out of their way to keep Twitch a safe place. And there's a lot of things that had to be built in order for that to work. Because at the scale of Twitch, there's a lot of people trying to abuse the system. So the whole system was built with the presumption that that type of abuse can and often will happen. This includes things like zero permission by default. When someone signs up for a brand new account on Twitch and doesn't have anything verifying who they are, maybe they went and clicked the link in the verify email but haven't done anything else like a phone number or spent money or any of the other indicators that make it clear that this person is real. They also use things like good CAPTCHAs when users are signing up and IP detection and lots of these other things that are really important when building a platform that anyone can do anything on. GitHub has gotten away with not having a spam problem for a long time, and that's not because they implemented things well. It's because the average GitHub user is, for the most part, smart enough that they won't fall for the types of scams that these spam bots are known for. If a random person on Twitch gets a DM promising them a free PS5, they might be young enough or dumb enough to accept it. If someone gets sent the same message on GitHub, they probably know how it was built and they're going to ignore it. But for a lot of reasons, the amount of people on GitHub has been going up fast. And as such, whenever the number of people goes up, the average intelligence of the people goes down. These things combined to an actual incentive for spammers to start throwing their bullshit at GitHub. The problem is, since GitHub never had this problem, they didn't build any of the necessary parts to deal with it. A GitHub issue cut by a longtime contributor has no precedence or priority over a GitHub contributor made on a nasty named random character account that got opened 30 seconds ago. The fact that a random account that is obviously spam and somebody who owns the repo and has contributed for decades don't have any difference in how the platform treats them is a fundamental failure that existed before the spam problem. The fact that there was no concept of a hierarchy or prioritization of the things coming through my GitHub based on how valuable the person is likely to be is a bad thing. And now that some of those people are literal spam bots. In the case of the Shadcn UI repo, lots of these weird porn spam bots. Yeah, this matters now. And GitHub, it's time to man up. Let's talk about what it would take to fix this, and also, of course, how severe it currently is. I have one piece of good news. It does appear that all of these issues were deleted. Progress. Is the account suspended, hopefully? Cool. Fundamental failure number 1. A random GitHub account that has no history on the platform can open hundreds of issues on the same GitHub repository. What the fuck? And this comes with a really fun problem too, which is that all of the tools that need to exist to ban a user from cutting issues or bulk delete all of the things that they did don't exist. In fact, there is no way to delete malicious issues or pull requests. You can close them, but you cannot delete them, and you cannot ban a user from being able to file frivolous bullshit in your repo. What? There is literally no moderation tooling whatsoever on GitHub. So a lot of projects are getting so much bullshit spam. Quick correction, you can block users from your organization now. That is cool, but it doesn't close their issues when you do. There is no concept of block and delete the history. What? How? It's like the most rudimentary shit. On my little 3-person safety team, we got all these things right at Twitch back in like 2017-18, and most of them had been done even before then with just one person working on it from chat. I get that GitHub has historically been niche and nerdy enough to not have to care about these things, but it's gotten bad fast. And in the era of AI, where it's cheaper than ever to create all of this spam, it's more important than ever to have tools not only to prevent it, but to allow me as the maintainer to clean up the mess afterwards. It shouldn't require a viral tweet for all of these issues to not just be closed, but be deleted. Because if I block a user from my org, the issues are still there. And even if I go through and manually close them all, they are still there. We still have hundreds of issues that are covered with random spam nonsense. Another fun thing that somebody discovered is that the links were being added with an edit, which helps dodge some of the spam filters. This is absurd. Yeah. And this is still open. How long has this been open for? Yesterday. What? And there's just a bunch of these things. It seems like more than anything, they're trying to take advantage of SEO because GitHub's SEO is pretty good. So if you search free Penna versus Pennington live stream, this might come up. You know, it's a random GitHub thing. And I'm sure all of these are viruses. I'm sure all of these are nasty. Like, all of these are from the same person. And it just goes on because GitHub doesn't make it easy enough to deal with it. And even if they ban the person, these will stay there. That's horrible. I did get some inside info from somebody in my chat when I was first talking about this. Tiny, I don't know if you're here or not, but very good detail. Some context on GitHub's way of handling these things. GitHub is mostly a list of manually curated rules and keywords by humans. They also have an AI, which is content-based classifier, which has different models like issue comment, gist comment, etc., as well as a poorly implemented Arcos Labs CAPTCHA. It seems like they just have these random hard-coded rules around that have been around for a while. My guess is the people who made it probably don't even work there anymore. The reality is that these things are easy to get around. It seems like one of the ways to get around it is to leave a comment without a link so they don't get hit by the spam bot checker, and then update it later because the edit doesn't get checked as aggressively. And these are the types of things that your platform needs to be built around doing right in order to do them right, and adding them retroactively is going to be hell, especially if your CAPTCHA system is bad. If I was at GitHub right now and I was running these things, the path forward feels relatively simple to me. A brand new GitHub account cannot leave comments or interact with other public things on GitHub until it has been used for long enough to appear and hit like a good state with whatever thing they're doing to test it. Until then, they can only contribute to their own things, or they get hit with really aggressive CAPTCHAs as they try to interact with other things. But if I just opened up a GitHub account, the reputation on that account should be garbage, and it should be treated as such. Until an account has been proven to bring value, or at the very least to be very likely to be a human, it should not have the same level of permission that a huge account does. Like the CEO of Vercel or Linus Torvalds himself cut an issue on my GitHub repo. they are just as likely to have it go through as a random account that was created that day with spammer bot number 27 as the username. They're just not doing the work to even kind of check if these things are okay. Someone made a really good suggestion, which is to search site github.com leak on Google and do last 24 hours. Look at that. Even on Vercel's repo. Are you kidding? At least they have Vercel has people full-time working on the issues for Next.js. And they still are up long enough to get indexed. What? This is insane. Look at how many of these there are, and on huge repos too. So many big GitHub accounts and big projects have just had to accept this and eat it as a cost of being on GitHub. What? How is this okay? The reality is that the maintainers of these things might seem like really big famous people. They're not. The maintainers of these huge projects are quiet people without much reach, and they're just stuck dealing with it because GitHub's too lazy to do it. What the hell? The example I was going to give earlier before I got sidetracked is the current state of the Express.js repo. If we look at the closed tab here, most of them are going to be random developers adding their username to the README, not even their username, their personal name to the README, because a tutorial creator on YouTube showed that in the Express repo as an example of how to contribute to open source. And now, every single day, they get a random PR with a random person's name added, often multiple times a day. This sucks. Line number 6. At least that was a little funny, but it's so absurd that there's all of these update README PRs. If GitHub was a competent platform that was working to make lives easier for the maintainers, they would allow you to write a simple filter to auto-ban things like this. Like if I want to not deal with this on Twitch, so just for an example with Twitch, it is so easy to add permitted and block terms. You literally click here, paste the term, and you can have it blocked forever. Permitted terms is the same. And as we just saw in chat, if people send messages that the default settings on Twitch think might be inappropriate, it doesn't default to posting them. It defaults to hiding them so an actual person who runs the channel can approve it and allow it. So maybe, crazy thought, I don't know, I was going to joke and say I'm not an expert, but I'm at least further along than whoever the hell is making these decisions at GitHub. Maybe if there is a user who has not contributed anything yet to any other place on GitHub, maybe, just maybe, the issue shouldn't be public until someone approves. I know, crazy thoughts. Maybe the people who maintain the repo on GitHub know what they're doing. And maybe if you hide a potentially suspicious issue from the public until the repo maintainer hits accept, you just killed all of the incentive. Because the incentive is this: you can be indexed on Google. But if you have to be approved by a human before it is public, before it can be indexed, problem goes away immediately. All you have to do is kill the potential value add that the spammers have by doing the bullshit. And as soon as you kill that, life is much better. And I'm not saying auto hide every issue. If someone has multiple repos, they have contributed pull requests to other things, and their account has been around for a while, then let them comment on things. Let them leave issues. Let them default be fine, just like it is on Twitch. We have suspicious user monitoring. We even had one earlier. Don't know if we have any examples right now. But if somebody shows up who's never chatted before and they're on a brand new account, Twitch will flag it and say, hey, this user might be ban evading. They might be a spam bot, just so you know. By default, the message is hidden. But if you click approve, we'll let the message. It's so easy to build this. And it is amazing that they haven't even bothered yet. The concept, as people are saying in chat, the concept of a karma system is pretty universal. But on GitHub, as soon as you have an account, as soon as you verified the email, you are just as high status as somebody who literally built Linux. As far as GitHub cares, you are both the same. That's just absurd. Like, what? How have they not even started to address it? Yeah. There's a lot GitHub could do. I could sit here and rant even more about the things they could do, but honestly, any one of them is enough to solve these problems. It's just time for them to sit down and do it. The issue is that if GitHub had provided the tools necessary for maintainers to fix this, cool, awesome. But right now, as a maintainer of a big repo, you are eating the cost of GitHub's refusal to implement these things. Either you are creating your own bots to do this for you, or you're by hand closing all of this bullshit. None of that is fair or acceptable. All of that is absolutely absurd. Even something as simple as banning a user from your org, not destroying the issues. Like, if someone spams my repo with 5,000 issues about some random leak that they're trying to get indexed on Google, and I ban them, and I go through and manually close them all, I still can't delete the issues. They're still going to be indexed on Google unless GitHub bans the account and purges all of the things they've done. It's absurd. It turns out I was kind of wrong about issue deletion, but it's funnier than I thought. First off, multiple different places have documentation on deleting an issue, and they kind of contradict each other and they're incredibly unclear. This appears to be the one that has the info I actually care about. By default, issues cannot be deleted in an organization's repositories. Yes, even spam issues by default can't be deleted. An organization owner must enable the feature for all of the organization's repositories first. So you have to have an owner of the org enable the feature. Even admins can't. So if we start getting spam for upload thing stuff, and Mark wants to be able to delete the spam, he has to get a hold of me to go into the settings, to turn on this feature, just to get started. Once enabled, org owners and people with admin access in an org-owned repo can start deleting issues. People with admin access in a repo include organization members as well as outside collaborators who were given admin access. For more info, see repository role. Yeah, you get the idea. And even then, you can only delete one issue at a time. You can't delete all issues from a given user. You have to manually go through and delete every single issue yourself. While sure, I was wrong, you can delete issues. I didn't know that, and almost no one does because nobody has this enabled. And also, it sucks so hard to do that no one's going to do it anyways. The only way I would see anyone doing this is through an API, and I haven't even seen that. This sucks. These things should be set up better by default. There should be a queue for issues that might be suspicious. There should be prioritization for issues that are most likely not to be suspicious. Like every single fucking platform has an inbox and then a separate see more inbox for people that might be less likely to be good. How does a platform as incompetent as Twitter get this right and GitHub doesn't? What happened? It is one thing to not have good enough defaults. It is a whole different thing to not even start providing the tools that are necessary for good faith maintainers to maintain a good faith environment for their projects. This is just yet another one of those costs that you have to eat as a GitHub maintainer that is thankless and miserable. If you take anything from this video, it should be that GitHub open source maintainers deserve all the praise and ideally all the funding you can hand them in the world. Open source maintenance is a thankless job, and bullshit like this just makes it worse. If I was GitHub, my top priority would be making sure these maintainers have as good of a time as possible and doing everything in my power to help them avoid burnout. Making them look at hundreds of these spam issues every day because somebody wants free SEO is not worth the one engineer a year's cost it would take to fix the shit. Get someone who knows what they're doing to sit down and fix this stuff, because if it doesn't get fixed, I will actually move to the platform that beats you to it. I cannot in good faith recommend big open source maintainers use a platform that doesn't understand the very basics of safety and platform moderation. And GitHub, this is unacceptable. Get this fixed. Until next time, don't spam people.